Hello, hello, and welcome to my Sunday Thought on Tuesday. One of these days, I'll actually get it on Sunday. Um, I was reading that when you play sweet music before you go to sleep, you'll have lovelier dreams. And that reminded me of a very funny, wonderful dream that I had when I was 36 years old. That would be in 1969. As many of you know, when I was 36, I was a patient at National Institutes of Health. National Institutes of Health is an experimental center in the United States where people volunteer to be guinea pigs. It is free treatment. Most of the people that go there are either terminally ill or they have an incurable disease, and they go there to see if they can be cured. And I was not absorbing food. I have always believed that what I did was internalize my anorexia. I ate a great deal of food, but it went right through me. And I was not absorbing food. And these are the finest doctors in the United States, and it is a lovely, lovely place. If anybody, uh, I can never say anything about NIH that's bad. It was absolutely wonderful, and they were very advanced. And one of the things that very state of the art, and even now I'm seeing techniques, dental techniques, radiology techniques that are brand new now that they were experimenting with back in 1969 at National Institutes of Health. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful place. And I was there for 4 months and then again for 2 months, and nobody did find out what was wrong with me. While I was there, it is also interesting for those of you who loved Robin Williams and The Awakening to know that after I had a bone biopsy because I had very severe osteoporosis, which I still have today. I was walking. After surgery, you walk to try to get your circulation back and try to feel like a human being. And I was walking with this man in the next room, and he was telling me that he had just been given a drug that would save that would stop his cerebral palsy and would change his life. He was a lawyer from Atlanta, and that was dopamine, and that was the drug that they were talking about in The Awakening with the famous Robin Williams. And one more aside, there is a new film about Robin Williams that was talking about the fact that he had lesions in his brain that he was unable to formulate his thoughts. You know, he was very quick. He was very sharp and very quick. And he had said to his wife, "I'm just not myself anymore." And I was at the Punchline in San Francisco about 2 months before he killed himself. And I remember it was the first time that I had heard him. And I remember being so shocked because I didn't think he was very funny. And I know that he was supposed to be absolutely wonderful, and he really wasn't funny at all. He was just rambling on and a lot of non sequiturs. Now, when I saw this, the short, the preview of the movie, I realized why. It was because he had lesions in his brain, and he could no longer be as sharp as he wanted to be. But let's get back to dreams. Now, they say that when you hear sweet music, you have lovelier dreams. Now, in an effort to find out what was wrong with me at National Institutes of Health, besides my personality, this one doctor decided to give me an endoscopy. One more aside, a poorly administered endoscopy killed Joan Rivers. But of course, in 1969, I didn't know about Joan Rivers, and that happened much, much later. But an endoscopy, if those of you don't know what it is when they stick a tube down your throat. And his idea was to go down the throat into my stomach and my intestine to find out what was going on in there, that I simply was not holding food. It was just going right through me. And I kept saying to him, "No, no, I don't like things down my throat." And he said to me, "Oh," I said, "I'm really an expert at this. You won't even know that tube is down your throat." I said, "Yes, I'll know. I really don't want that. I don't like it." And like all doctors, he paid absolutely no attention to me, and he was getting me ready for this procedure. And as he got me ready for this procedure, he began to sing La Boheme. He happened to know the entire opera. Now, I love La Boheme. Those of you who don't know the opera, it is 4 hours long. It's the story of how a bunch of four bohemians uh, uh, meet, and the things that happen to them, and one of them, Rodolfo, meets a lovely lady named Mimi who has tuberculosis, and it's a beautiful love story. And the scene opens up where Rodolfo is helping Mimi find the key to her flat. They're groping around on the steps, and then she says, "My name is Mimi," and oh my God, and you love it. And it's I love that opera, and I could listen to it forever and ever. So the man is trying to get this tube down my throat, and he's singing, da 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 da, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And pretty soon it's going to be "Mi chiamo Mimi," and oh, and then suddenly nothing, and I started to dream. And I dreamt that I was in an Elysian field. It was absolutely beautiful. The air was clear, the sky was blue, the flowers were blooming, and the scents were gorgeous. There were daisies, there were roses, and I was smelling all these roses, and I was smelling the daisies, and the butterflies were flitting around, and little birds were flying. It was like a fairy tale. It was just so beautiful. And as I traipsed through the grass and the meadow, uh, 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 just traipsing and dancing, I came to a stream, and the stream was very deep, and it was very wide, and I cannot swim, and I am terrified of the water. So I was looking at this water, inhaling the beautiful perfume of the meadow and the flowers, and I was thinking, if I go in there, I'm going to drown. And then I suddenly saw the current pick up, and it was very turbulent. And I thought, should I go in or shouldn't I go in? Because if I go in, I know that I am never going to be able to come out. And the toe was going in, and then suddenly I was awake. And at the moment that I was awake, the doctor is singing, "Mimi!" And if you know the opera, that is what Rodolfo sings when Mimi dies. She has tuberculosis, she dies, which is the end of the opera. That means 4 hours went on between what he was singing in the beginning and me coming back to consciousness. So I said to him, I said, "What happened? What happened? How did you get all the way through that opera?" And he said, "Well, you died on the table." And everybody always says many people will say that they have died and come back to life. Well, I actually have, and they brought me back to life. And I had died on the table. As a prelude to that, so that you know what happened after, of course, they never did do the endoscopy. They couldn't get the tube down my throat because I choked. And like Joan Rivers, only nobody brought her back to life, but here I am, I'm back to life. When I stayed at the National Institutes of Health, I loved it. Everybody was wonderful. It was medical practice at its best. The patient was patient-centered. It was absolutely beautiful. But after 4 months, I realized that I was spending 4 months totally devoted to my body, which was not functioning, and that's not life. And so I said to the nurse, whose name was Arlene, she was a little redhead, I said, "I'm going home." And she said, "Why are you going home?" And she said, "You can't, because if you go home within a month, you're going to have spontaneous fractures because of your bones, and you are going to die." And I said, "Arlene, I am having too much fun here." Because I did. I had never had so much attention paid to me ever. Because nobody could figure out what was wrong. So all the doctors have all these conferences about me. And so I was having too much fun. I really loved it there. And I said, there has to be a better way to get attention than for me to confuse all these doctors. And so, because it's a volunteer place, I went home. And one more aside. At that point, I weighed 55 pounds. If anyone knows pounds, that's very, very skinny. I weighed 55 pounds. Most of it was water weight. And they put me in a wheelchair in the Washington, that was Bethesda at the airport, but it was the Washington, D.C. airport. And the person that was pushing me had an earphone in his ear. At that time, they had just started intercom communication between the main office and the people on the floor in the airport. And I thought he was disabled. And so I looked up at this man and I said, "Oh, isn't it wonderful that United Airlines hires the disabled?" And that poor man thought because he was pushing me in a wheelchair, he thought that I was applying for a job. And he said, "No, no," he said, I'm not disabled. I'm just communicating. They've sent me home, and I do want you to know the ending because, of course, it's a happy ending. When I got home, I decided that the doctors could not cure me, and I said to myself, what did the caveman do? What did the caveman do to get well? He didn't go to doctors because there weren't any. He breathed fresh air, which you could do in 1970. By that time it was 1970. He ate unadulterated food. So I only ate food from, in America, the edges of the market. I ate nothing in a can, a box, or processed. Nothing processed. And he got fresh air. And I am a couch potato, as everybody knows. You give me a book and I'm lost. I'm there forever. So I decided that the way to get me outside was to get a puppy. So I got a puppy. I named him David. I walked him every day for 10 years, but I got well. I got well. So that is my story of how to get a sweet dream and also how to use fresh air and good food and exercise to get well. I do want to give this one an ending, and this is that much later, when I was in my 60s, I still have this osteoporosis, and I went to the doctor and I told him the story. And I said, well, I said to myself, what did the caveman do? And he said, Miss Miller, the caveman died. But I didn't. And thank you so much for joining me for my Sunday Thought on Tuesday. And I do want to remind you that if you want to read more about my crazy life and my adventures that got me into comedy, I have a book, Getting the Last Laugh. You'll see me and an Irish dog whose name is Fuji, and you can get it on Amazon. And thank you so much for joining me for my Sunday Thought.